my wife, her family is Punjabi. Yeah, so they're fairly traditional Sikh family, and I was the first non-Sikh person in their family ever.
So when you first got into the relationship, were there any resistance to your coupling?
Oh yeah. No, there were lots of concerns on both sides. I mean, my family had some concerns because my family was not new to intermarriage. The generation before, my dad's generation was the one that really started that in our family. My uncle married a Chinese woman, but they had a hard time with it back then. But more on my side, the problem with my wife was, and at the time in the media, there had been a whole bunch of coverage of these Punjabi honor killings. Where, I don't know if you remember, this is going back quite like over a decade, but it was really, all the newspapers were talking about it. This daughter talked to a white man and the father pushed her down the stairs and she broke her neck and died. Or this wife talked to the white neighbor and her husband set her on fire in the backyard. Like, there was a lot of that. Oh, it was terrible. I mean, there were some really terrible things happening. And at that time, when I had introduced my wife as my potential wife at the time, they were concerned. They're like, well, if her family doesn't like you, are they going to kill you guys?
Was there initial resistance from your mother-in-law before she sort of made a 180, or was she always like, great?
Well, at the time, she was actually quite concerned that my wife hadn't gotten married yet, because in a lot of times in Punjabi culture, if you're not married by the time you're in your mid-20s, or at least engaged, that's kind of like, oh, what's wrong with that girl? So, and my wife was approaching 30 when we got married, so her mom was actually thrilled that she'd found a husband, period. So it was kind of, the bar had definitely been lowered. The barriers to entry were a lot lower in that case, but So I was lucky. When she met me, like Parminder was telling her, well, when Parminder talked about it, she said, well, this is, he's university educated, he's got a decent career going, he's not an alcoholic. Then you're like, I hit 3 out of 3, so it was kind of, she was like, great, when can we do this? So, I even got the dowry, which I was super uncomfortable with. If you don't accept the dowry, that's like an insult. Typically in Punjabi weddings, it's the wife's family doing all the dowrying. I don't know if that's a word.
You had to dye your beard black with a turban.
No, they gave me a turban that matched.